Welcome everybody. I'm Jessica Jablon. I'm the California Program Coordinator, and I wanted to welcome you to Sharsheret's first national family event, our Shavuot Family Bakefest. A few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted on Sharsheret's website. Participants' faces and names will not be in the recording. If you would like to remain private, you can keep your video off and rename yourself, or you can call into the webinar. Instructions are in the chat box now for both options. You may have noticed that all participants have been muted. Please keep yourself on mute throughout the call. If you have questions for our chefs, please put them in the chat box either publicly or click on Sharsheret in the chat box to submit a private question. So excited that you're here, and we can't wait to make delicious cheesecake pops and cheese blintzes with you. You should have received the recipes in advance. The link is being put into the chat for your convenience if you'd like to access it now. First, I want to thank our sponsors, CGen and Merck, for their support that allows us to do programs like this one. And I want to thank our wonderful community partners, JKID LA, the Jewish United Fund of Chicago Young Families, and PJ Library. The links to our partners are in the chat and will be in our follow-up email if you'd like more information about them. And I invite you to take pictures of your finished treats and tag us and follow us on Instagram at Sharsheret1 and Facebook at Sharsheret. So 7 weeks after Passover ends, it's time for us to celebrate Shavuot. This holiday marks the biblical story of receiving the 10 Commandments and the Torah at Mount Sinai. Although Shavuot was originally a harvest holiday, today people celebrate the day in many ways, like of course indulging in cheesecake and blintzes. The tie-in to the Torah and the 10 Commandments also makes Shavuot a perfect opportunity to reinforce so many of the values that we as parents are already imparting onto our children, like telling the truth, honoring others, and sharing. So before we start cooking, let's talk for a few minutes about caring for the community. Sharsheret means chain in Hebrew, and we are all linked together like a chain, and we should do our best to help each other. By being here today, you're helping people who are sick, because that's what we do at Sharsheret. We help women who are sick with breast or ovarian cancer and their families with free support and resources. Did you know that there's a Jewish tradition to support those who are sick? Do you know what that's called? It's called Bikur Cholim, visiting the sick. So have you ever brought a friend soup when they had the sniffles, or visited someone in the hospital? Maybe sent a get well card? That's all Bikur Cholim. Visiting and caring for those in our community who are dealing with health issues is also a way to perform chesed, or acts of loving kindness. So there are many different ways of making people feel better when you're sick. Maybe you want to cook them a special food like matzo ball soup. I know I like that when I'm not feeling well. Or maybe your mom or dad scratches your back or gives you cuddles. Or maybe you have a special blanket you like to snuggle with. There are so many different ways that we can make people feel better when they're sick. We can call or text them to let them know that we're thinking about them. We can take notes in class to help someone who maybe missed a day of school, or we could drop off a treat or a small gift at their house. So today you're doing a mitzvah, a good deed, by both raising awareness and by helping make delicious treats for your family. And we're so happy that you're here. So the last page of the recipes that you received is a list of some amazing PJ Library books that talk more about Bikur Cholim. And we will also send you more information about Sharsheret in a follow-up email. So now on to the cooking portion I know you're all excited about. I'm really thrilled to introduce Chef Alison Gutwaks. Alison is the chef and president of the personal chef company Ali Babka, where she focuses on making clients happy while specializing in nutrition and dietary restrictions and developing recipes. She lives in Columbus, Ohio with her husband and 3 kids. And you can learn more about Alison through the link in the chat. Alison, I turn it over to you.
All right. Hi, welcome. I'm just gonna put it in. Okay. Hi. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm Alison Gutwaks. It is a pleasure to have all of you here in our kitchen. We're going to be making cheesecake lollipops today. If you are doing this along with me, take your cheesecake out of the freezer now, because we're going to be working with that. So if you're doing that with me, take it out now, so we can have some time to just chill out on the counter for a second. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to make the cheesecake that I posted in the recipe and I gave to you. And then it's gonna be very quick because I have all the ingredients together, and then we're gonna get straight to the actual cheesecake pop making. So if you have your cheesecake, again, take it out. But I'm gonna show you guys really quickly how I make the cheesecake. That I'm not gonna be using the cheesecake that I'm making today. I'm actually gonna be using a store-bought one, because my assumption is that most people are going to be using a store-bought one. If you're not, I'm happy to show you how to do that a little bit later as well. So if it comes in here, so this is the crust for the cheesecake that I made. It's graham cracker crumbs. It's remember the recipe is we gave you graham cracker crumbs, sugar, water. And then I crumbled it up into like a sandy mixture. It's already baked actually at 350 for about 12 minutes until it gets nice and brown and toasty. And then I actually already made the filling as well. And this is all those ingredients as well listed, all blended up. I like to use my Vitamix or any blender because I think it gives it the creamiest and smoothest consistency. You're just gonna pour that in there. This. Just pouring that out. And then you're just going to pop this into the oven at 325 for about 40 to 60 minutes. I say 60 minutes because you never know. Everyone's ovens are a little bit different. You're going to pop it over there. Pop it. And then put this into your oven. You'll know it's done when it has like a slight jiggle, but it's mostly pretty solid. Then you're going to pop it into your freezer, and then you're going to slice these up for cheesecake lollipops. So I'm going to put this over here, pop it into the oven a little bit later. Okay. If you're doing this with me, take your cheesecake out. If anyone has done it, I like Sara Lee. If you were going to do this, or this is a Trader Joe's brand you can use as well. Or you can use the cheesecake, obviously, in the recipe as well. Really quick with the cheesecake recipe is I coated it in parchment paper so that you can easily lift it out and then slice it on your cutting board when you have it out, when you're all done making it and you're ready to cut it up. So it's a lot easier to slide out. I'm going to use Sara Lee for this one. It's good to have these ones because, it's good to have these ones because they're a little bit thinner. You don't want like super like heavy, intense cheesecake. If you do have that and you did buy that, that's fine too. It's just going to take a little bit more cutting. You're going to have to probably cut it, slice down that way, and then turn it over and then slice into squares to make a bite size. You really want these to be bite size. Okay, so they're fun for the kids. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take this cheesecake, and then what I like to do first is I like to chop off the ends and eat them later while you're doing this. But you can just chop off the ends, kind of square it off. There you go. And if it's soft enough, your kids can do this probably. And if it's not soft enough, do not let them do this. It's going to be a lot of like pushing down. So you're going to slice your frozen cheesecake. Oh, that's a little bit of easy square. Okay. And then get your lollipops ready. And also have a piece of parchment paper on a sheet tray ready as well. So you're going to slice these into squares. And then there's just like a little bit extra. No problem. That'll be eaten. And then slice it. Let's make, this is going to make 9. Okay. Then, because you're working with frozen cheesecake, it might be a little bit hard to get the stick in. So what I would do is, let me try and do it first. Let me see if it works. Okay. So another option, oh no, there it goes, it's going. Okay, if you are having issues getting the stick in, though, what I would do is fill a cup with some hot water. Also, if you're having some trouble cutting it as well, fill a cup with hot water, dip your knife in there, and then you can slice it a lot easier. It works a lot better that way. But this is how I like to do it, like this. I also actually tend to, it depends how you're dipping it, but it's your project. It's your cheesecake lollipop. So it can go either way you like. You can do it either this way, or you can do it this way, which I actually like to do through the side of it so that the graham cracker crust is showing this way and the cheesecake is showing this way. So you have, and then we're going to dip it in. So you're going to see all of that graham cracker and the cheesecake at the same time. We're going to leave it, you'll see. We'll get there. But then for this, you can also just like dip in, or you can drizzle. We'll get there as well. Okay. So now that you have these, there's two ways to melt chocolate. We're going to put these to the side. I'm actually just going to finish these quickly, just so I can get these going. I'll show you guys all the options. But there's two ways that we're going to be doing the chocolate. There's one way that you can do it, which is called a double boiler. So you're not putting the chocolate directly onto the stove. You're putting it into a bowl, which is on another bowl of like hot or simmering water. And that's going to melt the chocolate as the steam. And then the other way is the microwave, which I feel like is probably most popular. So I'm going to show you guys how to do the microwave section of it. Just keep going. One more to go. All right. Okay. Put this to the side. It's dirty. All right. So what I'm going to do is, if you have chocolate chips, I have some milk chocolate chips here. I also have some white chocolate chips if you want to do some drizzle. But you're going to first take the chocolate chips. You're going to put it into your microwave for 30-second increments. I'm going to pop it into the microwave now. It's over here. Follow me. There you go. It's actually down here in the secret hidden cabinet. I'm going to pop it in for, I'm actually going to put it in for 1 minute. Because I know my microwave, and I know it takes a little bit longer to do that. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for that to melt, get a spoon out so you can make sure you can stir it. Also get your toppings out if you want. So like I have graham cracker crumbs here. I think they're fun. Sprinkles, you could do chopped nuts. You could do coconut. You really like it's your cheesecake lollipops. You could do M&Ms. That'd be really fun. You could put little smiley faces on it, which would be cute. Really, whatever you want. Just like have fun with it. Be creative. All right, let's check. See it for a second. But so I use milk chocolate. I also use white chocolate. You can use semi-sweet chocolate if you like that taste. I figure if we're doing dairy cheesecake, I might as well go all in dairy. So we're going milk chocolate, we're going white chocolate, all that dairy chocolate. All right, let's see how we're doing in here. Okay, looks good. We're getting melted. There we go. Let me show you guys after 1 minute. Oh, actually, that's really super melted. All right, I think we're actually ready to dip with these. Okay, let's move it around. That looks beautiful, actually. Okay, so I'm gonna bring you guys down here. Move this away. And get closer. So what I'm gonna do is you're just gonna take your lollipop, you're gonna take your bowl, and you're just gonna do a quick dip. And you can dip the whole lollipop, or you could do half of it. I like to do half of it because I always like people to see like what you're eating. And then this is my favorite way to do it because you do get the two sides of it. So you really want to get in there and dip it. And then because they are frozen, when you do dip them, they're going to harden quicker, but not like so crazy. You still have a little bit of time. But then just take some sprinkles. I'm going to do this. My kids love sprinkles. And so I know that they're going to be obsessed with this one. So I'm going to do sprinkles. Actually, I had a request before I began this demo that my children are like, make sure you do some with sprinkles. So here's to you guys. Here's to my children. Make one for each of them. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do this is I'm actually going to pop the white chocolate into the microwave as well. So we're going to do that now. We're going to let's do like 30 seconds on this. We'll see how it's going after 30 seconds. Try to take you guys with me on my adventure over to the microwave. But mix it up a little bit. If you do need to remelt it, you can remelt it. I might actually show you guys, I'm going to show you guys my double boiler method right now and how that is doing.
Ellie?
Yeah.
Could we put the camera down a little bit just so that we can see the sprinkles and the...
Okay. Oh my gosh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, here you go.
Oh, those are so fun.
Yeah, they're so much fun. Okay, so let's see here. I have the white chocolate I'm going to do for 30 more seconds. So we have these so far. could do a few more sprinkles. See, they're already starting to harden. So you really have to get them on pretty quickly. And the Sara Lee cheesecake, I think, comes with like a whipped cream top. So I think that comes off a little bit. So again, this is something you have to work pretty quickly with, but in the end, you have everything ready, you're good to go. What you're gonna do with these when you're done is you're actually gonna pop them also into the freezer so they get super, super frozen. Okay. So we have our white chocolate. I'm just gonna mix up the white chocolate. This was in for a minute as well. Every microwave is different also, but I would do 30-second increments, otherwise you're gonna have burnt chocolate. No one wants that. Then what I'm gonna do with this white chocolate, I'm actually going to fill a bag with a little bit of it, because we're gonna be doing some drizzling, which I also think is a fun idea. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna grab this from over here. This is the other chocolate that I had in the double boiler. I'll show you guys what it looks like. That's what I had in the double boiler. I like this method better because you have more control over it. It does take a little bit longer, but you have more control over how it stays warm and all of that. But if you don't, you can also do this. This is an actual like double boiler bowl, but if you don't have this, you can also do it in the glass bowl. That works as well. And then take your cheesecake, dip it down, just like so. Remember, I like the half and half. And then we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, sorry. In the double boiler, how much water do you put in the bottom?
Oh, so actually I have a little bit. It's probably about a cup. I mean, depending on it, but basically you want to make sure that the bottom, the water doesn't really touch the bowl at all. You want to make sure that the water touches the water. You just get the steam from it. So you don't want to, depending on how big your bowl is and depending on, you know, how much it touches, try not to like, don't submerge the bowl, but like have it like just above the water, just so you get the steam. All right, then we're gonna bring it back down here. I'm gonna take you guys back to my white chocolate, and we're gonna do a little cut on the bottom of the bag, just like that. And you could do a fun like drizzle like that. That looks crazy decadent. And then, so people again know what it is, you could throw some graham cracker crumbs over the top of it, just like that. And let's do another one. Let's do one with actually dipped in maybe some of the white chocolate. Let's try that. That might be good. I mean, what's bad about it? That might be good. White chocolate and cheesecake. Might be delicious. I don't know yet. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, so you're going to take that. I have the white chocolate on there. You can't really tell because it blends in. But you can actually take another bag and you can do the opposite. Pop that in there. Take that milk chocolate. And this is so good. You don't need a pastry bag. Like you can just use a regular Ziploc baggie. Cut off the end of it, however, you know, large you want the hole to be. And then again, do a beautiful little drizzle over the top. Or you can just do all of them drizzled. Really depends on what, you know, again, it's your lollipop. If you do a few little sprinkles on top of that, I think it's beautiful. And you're gonna pop these in the freezer. You're gonna put them on a nice plate. I'm gonna back it up a little bit. You're gonna put them in the freezer. You're gonna put them on a nice plate. You're gonna serve them on your Shavuot table, or you'll serve them just out of the freezer, which is what we like to do here. We're like, we don't have dessert. We just have them like, you know, occasionally, just from the freezer. But you can put them on a nice platter. You can give them as a gift, or you can just eat them. But they're great. They're wonderful. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for coming to my kitchen today to do this with me. And please let me know if you have any questions. And and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Alison. This was so fun and such a simple way of making something really beautiful. And just thank you for being here with us today.
Take a look at them again. Ooh.
They look so good.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna eat
How
it.
fun.
Yeah.
So now we're going to turn it over to Chef Danny to make cheese blintzes. Danny Corsun has been a chef educator for 21 years. As a classroom educator, he had the unique opportunity to create a program that taught academic disciplines through experientially engaging cooking classes. In 2005, he created Culinary Kids Academy, which has expanded into Culinary Judaics Academy, and he has a new online platform which infuses meaningful Jewish learning into cooking classes for all Jews, no matter their age, affiliation, or practice. Chef Danny, has a wonderful website, chef at Culinary Judaics Academy.com, and we're going to put that in the chat if you want to learn more about his program. And Danny, I'll turn it over to you. Oops, you're on mute.
And now I am not on mute. Can you all hear me?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
you sound great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much. I hope everybody enjoyed those cake pops. Those look really good. I am making those tomorrow. For sure. All right, so we don't have a lot of time, but I am going to try to give you a really fun taste of what Culinary Judaics Academy is all about. So Culinary Judaics Academy, as Jessica was so kind to tell you guys, is a fun way of learning. You can learn math and science and history all through cooking, but what we do is we don't only do that, we teach Jewish holidays and Judaic study all through cooking, and that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to celebrate Shavuot together, which is like, raise your hand if you've ever gotten a gift. Raise your hand if you've ever gotten a gift. So I love getting gifts. Birthdays are a really fun time to get gifts. And when most people think about a Jewish holiday where you get gifts, most people think about Hanukkah, right? But actually on Shavuot, the Jewish people got the best gift ever, and that was the Torah. And so the beauty of the Torah is it can actually help you today, 4,000 years later. That's the most amazing thing. It can help you with your friends. It can help you with your parents. It can help you with people you don't know. It can even help you with your dog or your cat. Believe it or not, the Torah talks about how we're supposed to take care of our pets. Now, why in the world would it do that? Because your pet can't take care of itself, which means we have to feed our pets according to the Torah before we feed us. So believe it or not, it's actually telling us how to care for people too that need our help. Even though you and I, thank goodness, we're going to have dinner tonight, but there are a lot of people out there that might not. And so we have to care for them. So the Torah, even though it's so old, is actually something that we can use. And we're going to talk about that. So Shavuot is when we were given the Torah. Now, there's a big difference. We didn't receive the Torah. We were given the Torah. The rabbis make a big deal about you've been given the Torah and not received. And I'm going to give you a thinking question. Why do you think the Torah was given but not received? That's kind of a riddle, right? It's kind of a riddle. I understand that it might sound a little bizarre, but believe it or not, we're going to, by the end of this, we're not only going to be eating really yummy blintzes, but we're going to be able to answer that question and apply it to our own lives. So the question again was, why was the Torah given but not received at Mount Sinai when the Jews got it? So what are we going to make today? As you already saw, you made the most delicious cake pops, but we are going to also make blintzes. Now, blintzes are little crepes, and the crepes are going to be stuffed with a cheese filling. So why cheese and why cheesecake? Well, because we're supposed to eat dairy on Shavuot. We're supposed to eat things that have dairy in it. Now, why would that be? Because a lot of rabbis compare the Torah to like a mother's milk that's being given to a baby. Well, anybody have any idea why that might be? I don't know if we're doing any interactivity here, Jessica, but I'm happy to take any answers because I know these answers and I want to hear from you guys. Does anybody have?
Yeah, if people want to put answers in the chat, that would be.
Yeah, okay, so put an answer in the chat. Why do you think the Torah is compared to mother's milk for a baby? And then Jessica will be able to read and she'll be able to give us some great answers. But There are a couple other reasons why. Ah, I love it. It nourishes us. Fantastic answer. So a baby needs nourishment. Its mind, its body needs nourishment. It needs to grow. And so too does the Torah give us the nourishment that we need to be able to grow in our own lives. So we're comparing mother's milk to the Torah. So we're making something that has milk in it. So we're making dairy. You're also supposed to eat 2 meals on Shavuot. You're supposed to eat a dairy meal and a meat meal. And according to dietary laws, those are supposed to be separate. So we eat the dairy separate from the meat. And that's why we separate and make it a very explicit act to make something dairy. So everybody can hear me okay? So somebody in the chat said they couldn't. Okay. All right, excellent, thank you. All right, so let's get started because we have not a lot of time and we have to answer that thinking question. Again, why was the Torah given but not received? We are going to make crepes today. Everybody gets very, very, very intimidated by crepes, okay? It's probably the one thing that people are scared of the most, but it's really not that hard and it's something that you can do at home. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make the crepe batter. Okay, now the crepe batter is different than pancake batter because it's much thinner. And so we're going to make it in a blender just like this. It doesn't matter if you have a little Ninja baby blender or a big blender like this, anything will work. You could even, if you really wanted to get some exercise, do a whisk action. But you really want the batter to be incorporated, okay? And not too thick. So you should all have the recipe. We're going to jump right in and get started. And so it's pretty much everybody in the pool here, okay? So what do I have? I have a cup of milk. My milk goes in, okay? Now, here's the thing. You can adapt, right? If those people out there are allergic to dairy, my dad was allergic, my sister's allergic. We try not to eat so much dairy. If you're lactose intolerant, you can substitute. So I have substitute oat milk before, almond milk before. So you can actually adapt this so that it doesn't have the milk. And there are other vegan things that you can do that can go into this. So I'm gonna give you the basic recipe though. So we're gonna go with a 1/4 cup of cold water, okay? So I put some water in this. I actually put an ice cube in this that melted, so I really wanted it to be cold. That goes in, okay? So I'm going to take 2 eggs. I've already beaten these eggs up. So I'm going to take my 2 eggs and put them in. If you want to, you can absolutely just crack them right into the blender, no problem. So that's two eggs, both the yolk and the white. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of flour in. Now this is why this is a little bit different than pancake batter, because not nearly as much flour goes into this as normal pancake batter. So all you're doing is adding 1 cup of flour. I'm going to get a cup right here. All right, so a cup goes in. Okay, I'm going to measure that out. Just a touch more. And you can see already that it's not that hard. What people are most intimidated by is the actual making of the crepe. And I'm going to show you how easy that is, and you should not be intimidated. A couple of things. We're going to do a little pinch of salt, a little bit of science here. The reason we're adding salt, I know you're saying, I thought these crepes are supposed to taste sweet. Well, actually, the science of salt actually dictates that by adding a tiny bit of salt, you're actually making what the sugars come out a little bit stronger. So by adding a tiny bit of salt, that's why when you make pies, cookies, cakes, muffins, cupcakes, you always add a tiny bit of salt because it actually enhances the sweetness of, you guessed it, the sugar, okay? So that's why you're adding a little bit of salt every time you're baking. So we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar. I'm gonna do it right in front of you. I didn't measure it out because I wanted to make sure everybody saw. 1, 2, and 3 goes in, okay? And then what we're gonna do is we are going to, I have some butter that I've melted. I'm gonna add that in a second. So I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna just do a low setting. And you may or may not be able to hear me because it's going to get a little loud, so bear with me, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to add the butter, but what I'm going to do also is make sure that it doesn't ride up the sides. Anytime you blend, or we're going to use a food processor that has a tendency to ride up the sides, you kind of want to push those down. because you want to be able to get it all incorporated. So I'm going to add in my melted butter, and it calls for 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Calls for a little bit more actually, because you can add butter and use the butter to actually make the crepes itself. I'm actually going to use nonstick spray, so I'm not going to use the butter. So I'm going to just blend this very quickly, and then believe it or not, that's it. That's all you got to do. So I'm going to blend this very quickly. Okay, that is it. Okay, as you can see, it's liquefied. It's not super duper thick. Certainly not like a pancake batter or a waffle batter. And now, look, the recipe actually says you can put this in the fridge and put it in the fridge overnight for 24 hours. We're going to let this sit for a couple of minutes while we make the filling. You're okay to use this right now. It's not it's not prohibited to use, but the recipe actually says that you can let it sit in your fridge overnight for 24 hours and then use it the next day. Not a problem if you want. I've done it both ways. Not a problem. All right, so we are going to move on to our filling. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to throw this in the fridge so it stays nice and cold. Okay, and so we make sure that it's cold when we get it together. All right, so let's move on. So I'm going to move my blender. I hope you all are thinking about your thinking question. Have you ever actually gotten something once but received it many times, that very same thing? I'm going to give you a little hint. So the question was another riddle. Have you ever received something? But I'm sorry, have you ever been given something but received that very same thing multiple times? So that's kind of a hint as to the answer to our thinking question. All right, so I'm going to move my food processor over because it's time to make the filling of this super delicious cheesecake. I'm not cheesecake. I got cheesecake on my mind. Of our blintzes. And so the beauty of this is that this is ultimately going to be light and airy and fluffy, and it's going to be really amazing. And it also doesn't require a tremendous amount of ingredients. I'm going to move my screen over so you can see what I'm doing. And we're going to add in, very, very simply, we're going to add in 1.5 cups of ricotta cheese. I like to use whole milk ricotta. You can use skim milk ricotta. Here's the thing, I'm definitely into moderation. I'm into using really high quality ingredients. I'm not scared of fat as long as I'm eating in moderation. I like pizza. I don't have 8 slices, I have 2, right? And so the same is for our blintzes. I love blintzes. I'm gonna have 2, I'm not gonna have 6. And so I want you to use high quality, really good ingredients. And so there is an appreciable difference between 100% whole milk ricotta versus the other kind. All right, so our ricotta goes in. We have cream cheese. And it calls for 4 ounces of cream cheese. I've softened this up just a little bit, and that goes in just like that. And then we are going to start adding some sugar. So we have 3 tablespoons of confectioner sugar, which is basically powdered sugar, right? So you're going to put that in. You don't want to use granulated sugar because it'll be grainy, right? So the powdered, the confectioner sugar is going to give it that smooth consistency that we really want when we bite into the crepe. So the confectioner sugar goes in. All right, next we're going to take a lemon. All right, so this is the key. I love this because it will provide a little acidic zing to our cheese filling. Now, what I want you to do is absolutely wash your lemon before you zest it, because clearly you're eating the outside of it and it could be dirty. And that a lot of people forget to do that when they zest their fruit. You're eating this, you have to wash this. So I've scrubbed the outside of it. And you want to zest it. Now you can zest it anyway. I got a fancy schmancy microplane here. You don't have to use this, right? You can use this guy, right? That'll do just fine. So you want to use the one with the smallest holes on it. And then you want to zest. So I'm going to zest this directly in to my food processor. Now, you're going to notice that when you zest, you're going to start to see the white of the lemon. And so you don't want to zest the white. That's called the pith, P-I-T-H. The pith is kind of bitter. You really don't want to zest the pith. There are some cultures that actually candy the pith which makes it edible, right? It's pretty darn bitter if you eat it by itself. So I would zest it, and then you're really going to have to use this lemon pretty quickly because it's going to dry out. Like literally, if I left this over tomorrow, I don't know that this lemon would be so great to use. So you want, and by the way, before you use any citrus, lemon, lime, you want to roll it, okay? And the reason you're rolling it is because you're releasing, I'm going to show you, we're not going to use we actually don't use the juice in this, but I'm going to show you what I mean. You're going to go like this and roll it, because what you're doing by doing that is you're breaking up the membranes inside the lemon that hold on to the juice. And that is what's going to yield as much juice as possible from this lemon when you cut it and squeeze it. All right. So just a quick hack for you. All right. So
Danny,
what else is going in?
A question came in.
Yeah.
Somebody's food processor is Parv, and she wanted to know if she can use a hand or a stand mixer.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. So like if you have one of those Cuisinart or Mixmaster or something like that, absolutely you can use that. Again, you could just in a bowl with a whisk, go to town, right? It's not that tough. I'm using this, but I have actually gone that route as well, which honestly I like better, because cooking is all about kind of contact with the food. It's about having a personal relationship with the food. I like to feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it. And so that's what we're all about putting as much love as we possibly can into our food. And when you are separated with a piece of machinery that you have to plug in, somehow the translation gets lost. So by actually getting into it, you're feeling it. And so I encourage you, lose the mechanics, right? Use the whisk. All right, so at this point, just to review, we have the ricotta cheese, the cream cheese, the confectioner's sugar, the lemon zested, and that's it. We're going to now just blend this. And remember, we're going to stop this and we're going to push down the sides again because we don't want it to ride up. And that's it. So again, if you look at the recipe, in the recipe, it calls for an egg, okay? Or actually, it might even call for 2 eggs. And so I would not do that because we're eating this right away. There are blintz recipes where you use the egg, and clearly then you're going to have to cook this filling because you can't eat raw egg, right? So what they do if you use the one with the egg version is that you will assemble all the crepes, get them into a Pyrex pan, and then throw them into a 350-degree oven to bake for a little while, 15 to 20 minutes, so that you can actually cook that filling. This way we can eat it right away, and I'm all about eating right away. So we're gonna do that, and believe it or not, so I just pushed down the sides, and so what I'm gonna do is, and that quickly, we are done, right? We are done with our filling. You can see it is truly almost cheesecake-esque, right? I'm going to show you what that looks like. So it's very creamy, really like pillowy creamy. And that's what I want. I want to bite into this crepe, and it's got almost a luxurious mouthfeel, so that I'm like, it's like eating pillows. So I'm going to set this aside, okay? And that's going to be just like that. I'm going to go get the batter, and that is going to be ready to go. Okay, and I'm going to plug my mixer in one more time because I want to give it one mix before we use it, okay? Just to make sure that nothing has separated and it's good. Now I'm going to actually use the spout of the mixer, right? If you don't have that, you want to put it into a bowl, you're doing it overnight, you're going to use a small ladle. Or you can honestly, use one of these, right? Use a quarter cup, and that will be just as well. All right, where are we? Here we go. So we're going to give this a quick mix very quickly. Perfect. All right, so here we go. So again, you're seeing that it's on the liquidy side. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm using a gas burner. Okay, I'm going to try my best to show this to you. I'm going to try maybe to bring the camera over. We'll see how that works out. All right, so the thing about gas that I like, especially for this recipe, is that you can adjust the heat very easily. When you're working with electric, not as user-friendly in terms of adjusting heat, because you're just putting it on medium or high or medium low or whatever you got. This way, I actually end up, when I'm making crepes, adjusting quite a bit, right? Because I'm noticing it's a little hot or it's a little cool. And so I'm upping or lowering the heat. So I'm going to put it on a medium flame. And I'm going to get my spray. This is just regular canola oil spray. I would not use olive oil spray. Reason being is I'm going to use a neutral oil. Neutral oil doesn't have flavor. So I don't want, if I'm using an oil that has an intense flavor like olive oil or sesame, or, you know, it's going to impart a flavor into my crepe that I don't want. So we're going to use a neutral oil spray. And then what I'm going to do is I am absolutely going to take this away from the burner, and then I'm going to spray. Many people make the mistake of doing this and then they get bitten, and I don't want you to get bitten, right? So we want to try to stay safe in the kitchen. All right, so I have now sprayed this. I sprayed the entire middle and all the sides, because we are going to get a little dexterity here, and we're going to move the crepe around. If you've ever seen somebody do that, you're seeing that they're going to put in enough that it's going to be able to spread into a circle. And then this is the part where people get, like I said, intimidated, because they end up not knowing how or when to turn it over. And so we're going to work on that. So I have
Danny, a quick question. Would avocado oil work?
Yeah, avocado oil would work for sure. All right, so I'm definitely hot enough at this point, and I'm actually going to lower it just a little bit. Now, I will warn you right away, and this happens to me, and I've done this a billion times. Your first crepe will likely get thrown away. It's just the way it is, right? I don't care if you are, you know, Wolfgang Puck. His first crepe gets thrown away too, right? So don't get discouraged, okay? And if it doesn't get thrown away, good for you, awesome. And just don't get discouraged, because the pan's got to warm up, right? The pan's got to get to the right temperature. You have to get in, you know, in tune with the pan. It's a process. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour. I'm going to see if you can see this. I'm going to pour just about a 1/4 cup, even less than that, in, and then I'm going to spread it around. And I'm going to try, all right, so already I'm noticing that it's a little too hot. So that's okay. So I'm actually lowering the heat by bringing the pan off, so I can regulate the heat like that as well. All right, so I'm going to make that go around. You want this to be as thin as you possibly can be. Now, I'm using this. This is an offset spatula. You can use it for decorating cakes. I love to use this for crepes, okay? And so what I do is I take it and then I'm going to put it underneath. Now, how do you know when to turn it over? So a crepe, you shouldn't have to look underneath. What you notice that the crepe will cook from the outside to the middle. The outside edges will begin to turn brown and move away from the pan, okay? They'll kind of come up. And so that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the edges to be brown. You'll also see little bubbles happening on top of the crepe, okay? By the way, the reason you want it thin is you don't want like these big, heavy, rubbery crepes, right? You want it as thin as possible. So you're gonna see it kind of crisp up around the edges, all right? And so I'm going to take my crepe, and I'm seeing that right now. And I'm going to, all right, so I don't know if you can see. So you might see that the edge is a little bit crispy, right? Kind of bubbly. And so I'm going to walk over. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take, let me move this down. All right. So I'm going to take my offset spatula. I'm putting it kind of toward the center, but not like super toward the center. And then I'm going to flip it. All right. So like I said, this probably is going to get tossed, but that's kind of the color I'm looking for. All right, I'm looking for that kind of golden brown. You absolutely do not want it to be overdone. So this is probably more done than I would care for it to be. So I'm going to toss this. And what I'm going to do is respray. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. Okay. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to spread it around. Ideally, a crepe pan is about an 8-inch pan. Okay. And you see that I'm going all the way around. All right. If you even ride up the sides, that's okay. All right. So I'm going to let that sit just like that because that's going to be my winner. I have a feeling. I have good feelings about this guy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you as the sides start to pull away. I'm also going to now I would refrigerate this, right? I didn't put this in the fridge, but you want this cold too, right? So I would refrigerate it, but it's nice and thick and not a lot of time will have gone by before we get to it. So I'm going to now, again, using my offset spatula, I'm going to see where we're at. And again, if you need to up the heat, by all means, up the heat. And I'm going to start pulling the sides away, right? And it's not quite ready yet. So I'm going to let it sit for like another 15 seconds. This is not something that you walk away from, okay? This is a thing that you are staying attentive to. You're putting a lot of love and a lot of kindness into these crepes, all right? I'm going to take the 15 seconds that we're waiting to let you know that what you're experiencing in terms of cooking and Judaic study isn't just something that we do in person or on Zoom, but we have an online learning platform that Jessica was so nice to put our website onto the chat. And we do videos, 15-minute videos that incorporate Jewish learning into cooking. Now, they're not Jewish cooking classes. So I'm not only teaching you how to make matzo ball soup. So I'll give you an example. We have a series that talks about Jewish values. A Jewish value is called Gemilut Chasadim. Gemilut Chasadim means loving kindness. We want to act with loving kindness. And so what do we make? We make risotto. We make a sun-dried tomato risotto. Why? Because if you've ever made risotto, you know that you need to put a lot of love and a lot of kindness into risotto to make sure you make it right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn this. This is ready to be turned. I can feel it. I'm going just like this. And that's it. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. There was a question that just came in about melted butter instead of using spray. Is that okay?
What was the substitute?
Melted butter?
Yeah. Oh, melted butter instead of the spray.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the recipe calls for that, right? So the recipe says to reserve some of the butter that you're adding for the batter to use in the pan. So you can absolutely use the butter. You just got to be careful because butter that also will require you to really worry and stay attentive to the temperature because you don't want the butter to burn, right? You don't want brown butter because again, that's going to add. While I love the taste of brown butter, you probably don't want to make your crepes with them. All right, so the second side takes no time at all because you've got heat coming from the top, heat coming from the bottom, meeting in the middle, and so it literally takes half the time that your first side took. And so you see that it is moving around, and I'm going to take this. We're going to make one. I'm going to move this off to the side. And I'm going to show you. So you see how it's moving around beautifully. I'm going to take this and I'm going to literally just slide it out onto my plate. Okay. Now it's time to make for an assembly line, right? So if you have guests over, you want to start making these, you want to throw these 5, 6, 10 of them. This recipe should make at least a dozen. And then what you want to do is you want to throw those in a 250-degree oven to stay warm, right? All right, so time to make our crepe and our blintz. So we have, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera all the way down so you can absolutely see. Now, the blintzes are kind of rectangular, and so that's what we're going for. And it's kind of like making a burrito, right? Kind of like making a burrito. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a spoon, and I'm going to take some of the cream cheese, the filling, and I'm going to put it kind of in the bottom third. And you want to make sure you don't put too much because you don't want it to overflow, okay? Now, again, like I said, it's a burrito. So what you want to do is you want to take the bottom, all right, and move it across the top to cover your filling, and it's going to stay because the filling acts like glue. And then you're going to take this side, move it over here, and take this side and move it over here. And then I'm going to give it one more turn, just like this. And there you have your crepe, your blintz, right? And so, like I said, and then you can throw some powdered sugar on top and all kinds of fun stuff. Now, bonus recipe time. We don't have time to do it because I've only got about four minutes left, I think, tops, maybe 3.
You're all good, Danny.
Oh, okay, thank you. But I gave you guys a recipe that I love, and it's a caramelized apple topping. And so I strongly suggest you to make those caramelized apples, and then you can throw them on top. Or quite frankly, you can use those as a filling as well. So you can make both cheese and apple separately, although they probably would taste great together as well. But that makes for a fantastic filling as well. All right, so I'm gonna let that cool down a little bit because that's smoking hot before I take a bite of it. And what I want to do is answer our thinking question. So the thinking question was, and you guys can throw it into the chat, was why do you think the Torah was given and not received on Shavuot? Anybody have any guesses of what they might think? Think about what I said in terms of, like, maybe in my life, advice, right? Advice can be given once. But yet that same advice, if it's good, you're going to use it many times, right? Makes sense? So what is anybody? So that would be one example of something I asked earlier, something that you're given, but you've received many times. So, and that is a hint, obviously, as to why the Torah was given and not necessarily received. So I'll give you the answer in the interest of time. The reason is because we read the Torah every single year. We start it, we read it, we finish it. Simchat Torah, we dance around with it. And what do we do the very next day? Anybody? Deborah says we read it again. I saw you. And she's right. We read it again and again and again. It's the same Torah, but is it really the same Torah? Because when I was bar mitzvahed, when I was 13 years old, I guarantee you the Torah that I read then is a lot different than the Torah that I read now, because my life is different. You're a product of your experiences. Every single year you grow. Certainly we've grown this year. And I'll bet you there are applications of the Torah that we have this year that we didn't think of in years prior. And that's true. So every year you become different, and therefore the Torah has new and different advice for us on kind of how to negotiate the minefields of our life, right? And how to give us the blueprint on doing exactly what Jessica said at the very beginning, which is do tikkun olam, do mitzvot. We read the book of Ruth on Shavuot, and that's a great way to end this, because the book of Ruth is about a woman who isn't Jewish, who wants to become Jewish, and a Jewish community that welcomes her with open arms, not considering her an outsider, but somebody who they say, you know what, you're committed to being Jewish and we love you. And so she is getting, that welcoming, that loving, that kindness, that tikkun olam, all the above in her life. And so we read that because she's exposed to a brand new Torah too, every day of her life. It's all new to her. So the point is that, again, the same way that we are changing every day, the Torah changes for us. And so we are never done receiving the Torah, which is why we never received it on the day that we were given it on Mount Sinai. We were given it, but we're never done receiving it. To our dying day, it'll be different. My mom is 90. I guarantee you, she's going to teach me stuff that she's learned in the last 40 years. Matter of fact, she'll teach me stuff she learned today. So the point is, like, we're going to do Shavuot, but let's know why we do Shavuot. But more importantly, let's apply it to our own lives today. And this is what Culinary Judaics Academy is all about, and what you guys can experience if you join us on the journey. So we hope you do. It was fantastic to be with you. This is about as long as a cheese crepe is lasting in front of me. And so it smells really good in my house. I hope it will, and no doubt it will. But you see, hopefully by the end of this, that you saw that it was approachable, it was easy and not intimidating. I hope you guys get a chance to make it as well. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Chef Danny. This was great. That blintz does look amazing, and I look forward to making it with my kids later. Thank you just so much for being here, and for Chef Alison for showing us the cheesecake pops. Please make sure to check out their websites and their Instagrams. We are thrilled that you were able to be here tonight. We wish you a wonderful Shavuot. And we just want you to know that Sharsheret is here for you should you need us. My colleague is going to put in the chat a link to our upcoming events. If there is anything that interests you, please check it out. Also, feel free to contact us, and we will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow or the next day with a recording of this program, as well as more information about Sharsheret. So we look forward to being in touch with you, and happy Shavuot.
Welcome back, everybody.